I hear the voices. Wow. I hear the voices, and I read the front page, and I know the speculation, but I'm the decider, and I decide what is best, declared George W. Bush 18 years ago, when he was accused of ignoring the advice of former military commanders while deferring to members of his own inner circle. I listen to all voices, but mine is the final decision. Yes, that's what he said. His words, which sparked both skepticism and ridicule, are still remembered after all these years. They were the butt of jokes in coffee shops and on late-night television shows, and they even inspired some slam poems and song lyrics. Few grown-ups talk the way George W. Bush does, said one television commentator, Dick Meyer, who added, "I believe the president is the decider, but I admit that I do find it hard to understand how a man who has such childish syntax can be so successful and powerful." Oh, how I'm curious to know what he thinks of a more recent president who was given to endless tantrums and even more childish ways of saying things. So childish, it's an insult to children to use the expression childish. Like Meyer, I have no doubt that President Bush was the decider in his administration. However much the shadowy figures around him may have influenced his decisions, and he bears responsibility for them. It won't surprise you, I'm sure, when I say that I think most of his decisions were poor ones. But his little protest that he was the decider, quaintly temperate compared to what we've witnessed over the intervening years, raises the question of who decides things and how they arrive at their decisions. Indeed, it leads me to ask, how do you make decisions? Many of life's decisions are rather easy, and we make them with little thought, almost reflexively, while other decisions can be especially difficult, leading to anxiety and worse. We all know how hard it is to make the major decisions in life, wrote the late Daniel C. Dennett in Breaking the Spell, which came out around the same time that George Bush was insisting that he was the decider. Dennett then posed some of those difficult questions. Should I hang tough or admit my transgression? Should I move or stay in my present position? Should I go to war or not? Should I follow my heart or my head? We've all faced such questions, and while some people seem to be able to answer them with ease, others can be almost paralyzed by them. Even much smaller decisions can be paralyzing at times, like whether to go out or stay home, or whether to answer the phone or just let it ring. And then there's the challenge when others ask us to decide for them. Decisions, decisions, decisions. We still haven't figured out any satisfactory, systemic way of deciding these things, acknowledged Daniel Dennett. Anything that can relieve the burden of figuring out how to make these hard calls is bound to be an attractive idea. As an illustration, he points to how some might make a decision by flipping a coin, saying that doing so serves to take away the burden of having to find a reason for choosing A over B. We like to have reasons for what we do, but sometimes nothing sufficiently persuasive comes to mind. So we concoct a little gadget, an external thing that will make the decision for us. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, heads we stay, tails we go. Ask me for the reason, though, and I'll confess I just don't know. Some seek to read the stars while others read tea leaves. Picking petals has been a popular method for young romantics. If the decision doesn't much matter to us, we may let others decide for us, while in other cases, we may ask someone else's opinion and then do the opposite. Let's face it, if we can't discern a reason on our own, at least we can insult someone else by ignoring their advice. Some take so long to decide that it becomes too late, and the decision is taken from them by fate. Well, most of us say we want to decide for ourselves. That's not always the case in reality. And our behavior may betray what we're feeling inside. We can be rather clever at evading decisions of our own. I've known many people who let others make choices for them, which comes with the added benefit of having someone else to blame if the choice proves to have been a bad one in hindsight. Many people defer to expertise, at least reputed expertise, especially when it comes to financial decisions or major purchases. The fact that an appliance salesman has never used a washing machine themselves won't stop them from telling us the best model to serve our particular laundry needs. And speaking of money laundering, why would anyone wish to read the fine print on their investment prospectus when they can rely on their financial planner to assure them that tobacco futures are a sure winner? I have to tell you, I love the commercial for certified financial planners that's on television right now. The one where a woman goes in to see her doctor and she's sitting there and he calls her by the wrong name. And then he asks which leg they're operating on, and it's her arm. And she then asks, "Are you a real orthopedist?" And he says, "No, I'm a Sagittarius." Before she wakes up from her dream state and finds herself talking to her certified financial planner. Anyone who has ever dined out with me will know that I prefer to order last. I'm not being courteous. I'm hoping to be influenced. I like to hear what everyone else at the table is ordering. And even then, I often find I need an extra moment or two to settle on my own choice. I have a hard time deciding what to eat, even though there is ample evidence to suggest that I love to eat. Although I can be rather fussy about what's on my plate, I'm also incredibly indecisive. Left to my own devices, I would likely order a cheeseburger and fries for breakfast, lunch, and supper. I need a mom when I'm sitting down to eat. And though I have been motherless for a long time now, still I like someone to choose for me. There was a little cafe in St. James that I used to visit frequently, the reason being that the owner of the cafe would tell me what I was having, and I didn't need to review the menu and choose for myself. I can be similarly indecisive about sermon topics, by the way, which is why I tend to procrastinate when I'm asked for titles and blurbs. On any given Sunday, I could preach on 10 different themes, depending upon which toe you step on. So I tend to use a lectionary approach, which involves thumbing through the various day books I have in search of something that catches my fancy for the particular date I will be speaking. This is not quite the same as checking my horoscope for the day, but it's still pretty arbitrary. And as our centering thought for today says, arbitrariness has to start somewhere. My indecisiveness is generally proportional to my desire to have more information before making a decision. Just as I am often the last person to order in a restaurant, when a topic comes up at a meeting about which I am either undecided or have no strong views, I wait to speak until almost everyone else has said their piece. Something that may surprise some of you who have been in meetings with me. Because I'm gathering information about what others are saying, what they value, what they emphasize, what the essential questions and possibilities may be. Or perhaps I'm quietly checking the internet while listening to the discussion, pretending to take notes. I like as much information as possible, even though sometimes too much information is as paralyzing as too little. But as Rita Mae Brown wrote in her novel In Her Day, all decisions are made on insufficient evidence. So we should just become comfortable with that. Even evidence-based decisions may require a leap of faith, or at least a small measure of trust in the face of the unknown. When I was younger, I would often go on long walks before making decisions. These days, I sometimes take a long shower, or I iron my clothes, or I go for a drive. Such quotidian tasks allow me to reflect on matters great and small without too much distraction. And if I'm doing something while I'm thinking, I'm less likely to imagine that people don't like me, or that I've done something wrong, or that a problem is unsolvable. Walking things off can be a very good strategy. At least it is for me. I turn things over in my mind and sometimes, perhaps most of the time, arrive at a carefully reasoned decision. Much of life is random, like the toss of a coin. But the critical choices we make are best made for a reason. But when a decision is about something important, something really important, especially something we know deep inside to involve a critical choice, simplistic devices and superstitions, and sometimes not even walking, will suffice to make a prudent decision. Nor will habit or leaving it to chance. As Dennett himself quipped, anything like flipping a coin would be just too, well, flippant. Serious decisions call for serious reasons. All that said, it should be obvious that not all decisions are of equal importance. Most of the choices we face on a daily basis are so trivial that we don't even notice our own decisions about them. Others are far more consequential. But even small decisions may be grounded in hard-won values that emerge after years of discernment and reflection. It makes the deciding easier. Even then, the hardest questions we face aren't the ones that lend themselves to obvious answers. where one choice is clearly superior to another. Real life is messier than that. The most painful moral struggles are not those between good and evil, but between the good and the lesser good, observed Barbara Harrison in an essay on moral ambiguity. I was recently reminded of the old mantra that before speaking, one should ask, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If the answer to any one of these is no, we may wish to keep our thoughts to ourselves. This seems especially true when it comes to the question, is it necessary? Even if something is true, and even if we can express ourselves in what we imagine to be a kindly way, we still do well to ask, is it necessary? What will be lost if we keep something to ourselves? What will be gained if we don't? Well, as I think back on the decisions I have made, it has occurred to me that I have done so on the basis of a similar threefold formula. And if this formula hasn't always been conscious, it has at least been revealed by the choices I have made. Is it aligned with my values? Is it important? Is it a good use of my time, talent, and resources? When I look back over the years, the poorest choices I have made, and I have made many poor choices, have been those when I skipped one of those questions. Sometimes in my haste to be a decisive decider like President Bush, I have skipped all three. And almost always the result has been disastrous, or at least a colossal waste of my own time, and sometimes the time of others. I won't titillate you with an exhaustive list of the poor choices I have made. You'll need to come to my Saturday night act if you want to hear that. Nor brag about the excellent ones, let alone the merely good ones. But I will say that my batting average is impressive. And I will share with you one benchmark that has made the difference for me, while reminding you that it's my benchmark and needn't be yours. You see, it's unusual for a Unitarian Universalist minister to base their entire career within an hour's drive of where they were born and grew up. Ours is a nomadic vocation. And while I didn't intend or even expect to remain in Winnipeg for my entire career, that's how things have turned out. And it seems unlikely that my career will take a sharp turn towards the end and lead me to some distant city, however glorious it may be. Yes, I have traveled far and wide as a minister, but my home base has always been in this city, and there's a reason for that. I love my family more than I love the church. And while I have always been open to serving Unitarian Universalism elsewhere, every time the opportunity to do so has presented itself, and there have been many such opportunities, I have decided to continue growing where I was planted. And that's because whenever I have been asked to serve elsewhere, I have invoked that threefold formula. Is it aligned with my values? Is it important? And is it a good use of my time, talent, and resources? And each time, I didn't mean to do that, and each time the answer to one of those questions has been no. Usually because I couldn't see how I could make a decision to leave work from my family, from my wife, my daughters, my late mother, and today my grandson, and Yeah, the little doggy Tucker, too. Although I may have revealed too much by naming him, but not the others. Only a ministry to prevent the assassination of puppies in South Dakota might lead me away from this city at this point in life. Their needs in every moment prove to be more important. There was an opportunity to use my time, talent, and finite resources, that is my own life, in a satisfying way. And so I've stayed put at the price of outward vocational success, and I have neither regrets nor apologies about it because my decisions have been true to who I am and ranked according to what I have valued most. Even so, I do sometimes regret what I choose to order when I join the lunch bunch after church on Sundays. But I have never regretted the company. Decisions, decisions, decisions. No trumpets sound when the important decisions of our life are made, wrote Agnes de Mille. Destiny is made known silently. And so it is that our lives involve a series of decisions, some we make for ourselves and others that are made for us. And the destiny of each one of us silently unfolds through them. From the small decisions about what we will wear after we roll out of bed or what we will choose for lunch today, through the educational and career choices we make, however broad or narrow they may be, to the more profound decisions of our lives, the homes we buy, the partners we find, whether or not to have children. These are all grand decisions. And yes, even the judgments we make about the great issues of the day in a world that mostly doesn't care about what we think. Our lives are a series of decisions that unfold in a distinctive pattern that characterizes who we are to become. And the important decisions demand reasons, not just a toss of the coin. However, we arrive at those decisions. John Lennon sang to his son that life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. But he might have just as easily sung, life is what happens to you while you're busy making decisions or allowing them to be made for you. Our closing hymn is number 184, Be Ye Lamps Unto Yourselves.